opening prayers in the yellow prayer book on page 3. I take refuge in the Buddhas until I attain the essence of awakening. Likewise, I take refuge in the Dharma and in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. Just as the Buddhas of the past gave rise to bodhicitta and progressed along the Bodhisattva's path, so shall I give rise to bodhicitta for the benefit of all beings and practice the stages of the Bodhisattva's path. I take refuge in the Buddhas until I attain the essence of awakening. Likewise, I take refuge in the Dharma and in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. Just as the Buddhas of the past gave rise to bodhicitta and progressed along the Bodhisattva's path, so shall I give rise to bodhicitta for the benefit of all beings and practice the stages of the Bodhisattva's path. I take refuge in the Buddhas until I attain the essence of awakening. Likewise, I take refuge in the Dharma and in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. Just as the Buddhas of the past gave rise to bodhicitta and progressed along the Bodhisattva's path, so shall I give rise to bodhicitta for the benefit of all beings and practice the stages of the Bodhisattva's path.
Tange do je je zon ro jin je ma do du je bon jom ba zur je lom bo ta bra ji bek shak je jer be ja dong go zan za dur jen jan jen de lo na ro da ma ba ma la ju je gam bo ba ba mo zhe ba ja ban de gong ba ka ju la ma nan je da jong je da na da na zera dam je do la ma la be la ya ju zo zong la za yon den jam zo nga la ban den re don jen re be ge le da ge lo ju zon ro war zin je lab do zo re ju lam dan ro war zin je lab do zo lan ro ba se war zin je lab do zo ro ba yi shi Jobar Zinja Labdo Zo Ganga Denjen Devar Jong Gaba Me Ba Je Me Ba Je Ba Me Ba Ta Me Ba Wa Me Ba Ro Me Ba Ta De To Me Dun Je Me Ruba Nye Je Je Dan Ba Zo Bu San Je Mo Nan Je Dan Ba De Lo Zhang Zar De Jin Je Zo Da Zo Jen Je Den Na Tu Son Shi Ba Me Sen Ge Gan Da Ge Ma Le De Da Dam Je La Lu Da Nga Ye Dan We Sa Je Wo Rin Jian Za We La Ma Je Je Go Zon Do Je Zin Lan Da 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 Ge Ju Lan Be De Da Ge Den Ba Dan Sun Jian Je Dong Jia Jin Bon Zhe Bar Zin Je Lao Du Zo Nam Ka Tang Yam Be Sun Jin Tam Ji Je Tong De Din De La Na Me Bar Yang Da Bar Zu Bu San Ji Ju Gom Hang Ru Bo Je Ta Bar Sha Di Ji De Tam Be Ju Gan Ki Sin De Dong Yang Su La Mar Ju Yam Be Sam Ba Jiang Chun Ju De Sen Ji Ba Dang Jun Yin Be Kun Ju Da Gu Long Ma Nar Bo Go Ne Sin Bar Sa De La Gang Sin Bar Sa We Chu Ne Pa Pa Zang Bo Ju Be Mo Lam Jiar Bo De Ne Di Nder Wa Dong Ni Lam Zang Shi Sa Wa Te Xiu Ba Gab Re Den De La Da Yin La Dung Go Ne Xie Ba Yo Re De Xiu Sin Ba Re De Ne Ra Ye Ju Duk Ju Go Ne Sung Ko Yo Re De Da Ra Ye Ju Duk Ba So Gong Du Xiu Sin Ne Da De Re De Ne Mo Lam Je Ping Xie Ba De Re Si
And cultivate a motivation, thinking may all sentient beings, limitless as space, attain the state of perfect and complete Buddhahood. I think that for this purpose I'm listening to the Dharma and thereafter will engage in practice. This is the unmistaken motivation for listening to the Dharma, and the Dharma we are listening to is the commentary on the King of Aspiration Prayers for Excellent Conduct called The Excellent Path That Accomplishes the Twofold Purpose. And within that we completed talking about the 6 branches and then there are 16 sections and we completed them, and today in the end we will talk about the benefits of making an aspiration prayer.
Pinyon shibanda, pin shibanda, ngarang so ke yin la ropa che ne, yin la pin taba de ke dondare. Tene yung serendu, te pa ropa che pala tene chor ngarang so la ndreven jong yore, sunam tok yore. Te junsen la tene, ta ngarang so ke zambo jubo molam de, 다 geva tsawa mampo je domde yo bare dambo jancho samba kundu zambo la so ba ke jancho ju de sem ji bu ke molam tene sanje papa jambar yang la so ba ke tene jinje la ba ke ta de yin hi ba tam je jinje la ba ke sunam ti o de sombon je per norzan la so ba ke kawa pa mi pa je ne tene dektola nyamslang ne tandran ze yaba dik pinyon tene deana yin ke ta tara che namba sanje pa ke ta chu dungkin na tsama ke ta jacha gupchu konga ta tsama lam na jacha gupchu konga tsam ke ta tata pa dan di molam de tene molam thamje ke jarpo ta we yamba ha ko to ni tene nyamlin nang tene jun ma chepa nungko yo bare te tso tamje ke sunam tene dana yigandala che ndrewan ze na ta gumpo ludrab la so bani zonde ta ndrewa pe mambon na yo bare ndrewan ze pa tamje ke ya che tanda ke sunam mambo che yo ba tsama tsardu tene dekala pa ndrehe jangkhen ya mambo ndakhe jana tana nangki mambo yore to so tamje ke kandar lunga yisum je gewa tamje chik du dom ya ba ke tene ta sunam je ngune se me hi ba jamso ta bi cha do yo ba indu tene dik to ne ta lega kanda je ba yin ne tene so so la dik ndebe te te tar do chor thob yong ba ti chani tene phiung shu go yo ba re
And so this term benefit, this term benefit we mentioned before in Tibetan is pain, which means pain is the first syllable is what we give away to others when we help others. And then yun, the second syllable, is what we get in return, the result or the merit. And so at the end, so we are bringing together all the virtue that came from the prayer of excellent conduct, starting with the Bodhisattva Samantabhadra, the benefits, the merit of his initial aspiration of bodhicitta, and then Manjushri and having had their blessings, the blessings of all the Buddhas, all that merit of consecrated blessed this aspiration. And then there is the great merit by the merchant son Norsang, who had endured so many hardships for the sake of this prayer, and then also practiced it. And then all the Dharma practitioners, maybe not exactly all, maybe like 95% or so, who have until now practiced this prayer of excellent conduct, understanding its meaning, and also have done many recitations of this prayer. So all of that merit, and then the merit that came from the composition of the various commentaries, starting with Nagarjuna and the many other commentaries that were composed, bringing together all of that merit. And then also there are many who have explained this prayer. So bringing together all the merit of body, speech, and mind in relation to this prayer. And this merit is inexhaustible, like an ocean, like a vast ocean. And now due to that, there will also be a corresponding result. So that is the benefit.
te ta pinyon de he ba la namba sum jugone he sum ko yo bare then tambo de la tongwe chu dan dimbe pinyon si dan tongchu si je da ganda tsen de la ngaran zo gung su tong to yak den de ge de pinyon gang de gang yo me de song ko yo bare de ni ba de la par de dimbe pinyon dan song par de dimba hi ban de ne je wa sma la de ne da ga pinyon gang de gang to ko yo ba and Tene sumba de dan jiktin lende ba sibande chertang dan jiktin lende ba hiba kapso ta ngaran tsoko che sami ji dewa sapa sami ji gewa tene sapa me sami ke ta sunam duso tamche jiktin lende ba hyo yorwa tene ta sakche chungor chubo ke tene sunam tam phyon kain na ya so lan jiktin tene te ang chertang jiktin hiba de che 말아서 젠데게 되네 수나 담체라양 되네 다 직딩 수남 시바다 고난데 요바레 간다 젠데게 제 소소게 자왈람로 라와당 되네 내가 그 삼돈도 발라소바데 담체양 되는 도게 요바레 다 간타르테다 돈신나 바 숨주고니 은데게 자그 요바레
So then this section on the benefits has 3 points, 3 kind of benefits. And the first one is the benefit of the benefit that can actually be seen, and that is something that can actually be seen, and also the benefit which refers to also the benefit that will be received in this very lifetime, can be seen in this lifetime. And the second is the transcendental benefit, meaning the benefit that will be obtained after this lifetime and future lifetimes. And the third one is the attaining the perfect benefits in this world and beyond this world, so additional benefits in this life, in this world and beyond this world. And beyond this world refers to basically these are like transcendental kinds of virtues that are accumulated, which lead to transcendental fulfillment. For example, it refers to the undefiled, pure virtue and the merit. And then the worldly kind refers to the merit that we experience in this life. For example, when that is realized, then we experience success in our activities and the fulfillment of our wishes. So these are the 3 benefits.
다딘한게 담보 첸달라 토프게 다 피용 대히에 받들라 양 나시스 예와 예고니 송고요 바레 제 가레르스드 담보데 체퍼진저 수남 용순제 베피용세 다 수남 탐체가 나는 수남 첸데 수남 난게양 수남 초도 줘바데 다 zambojobo molanda ke tanzin sena kantar zambojobo molanda la tene piyon gangyon ba tesong yo bari tambote ke tene ni ba de la de yin hi ban tong piyon so da che dan de he su jin yong yo ro te so tene ngaran so ke ransam sanje yin ba ngo hi ba ando so tamje da zambojobo molanda to le tene yong yo barwa tene zancho semba dang karwa nyamba ni tobe piyons ta tarha ngarang zo dang zancho semba pa la simji ja chi chong la tene tene de ke yongding ja chi chong ji yongding ke chepar chimbo yore tene ta zancho semba zo dang karwa nyam go yu na tene zambo jo molan dala tene nyam go yo bares desumbaderwa tene yebade ledge draba yongs sebe pions ledge draba se de tening around so kan sami ke lela so ba sa ya ba yina den to so thamje tang ne pan je go yo na kare le ting gor su de zambo jo mola den je go yo was tene ta de de yin zan ta de sa je na ba ye go ni ting yo ba re.
So the first of these three, which is the benefit that, like the visible benefit in this life, and that has 4 points, of which the first one is a completely kind of seizing the, kind of getting hold of or seizing the benefit of kind of exceptional merit, which refers to basically that through deep prayer for excellent conduct, one receives of all the kinds of merit. In this lifetime, one receives the supreme merit. And then secondly, the benefit of seeing and Sugata, so the Buddhas, which is also that through the prayer of excellent conduct, one sees that one's own mind is Buddha. And number 3 is the the benefit of obtaining an equal fortune as all the bodhisattvas. And that depends on one's level of bodhicitta. Depending on how strong it is, certain qualities will be actualized. It's basically one receives, through the aspiration prayer of excellent conduct, one receives the same fortune as all the bodhisattvas. And number 4 is the benefit that completely exhausts or brings to an end all karmic obscurations. So, for example, through the prayer of excellent conduct, even the karmas of the extremely negative actions which lead to immediate retribution are also exhausted. So these are the 4 points of the first point.
Tate tab piyond so ngaso ke ta rekhe ja godun de ha ko goya chi de rekhe ja yang yorwa teni ngaran so la ma ye to yisat ta ne ha ko zi ge lo yore kan se ngaran so sem yores sem hibandala ya tab to ni yan rekhe ja na ja dan chi yore sarkin dene rikpu ko ngor jo ba ke ya sarvung or joba tanda ka thonen rekhe ta namju nga so mambo thu yo bare te chig re te ta ngar so jitin kunzo ko khorang lamnari tirtang ngarang so sem chi de kare se du sem hi ba de chu je ge khorang ne tang ha ko zi de la sem se ko yo bare sem hi ban de bu ba bu ye ge nang ne daran di sumta yorwa de so ge nang ne rekhe ja andu 셈 시반데 두 다다와 토니 하고와 텔은 주고 요바리 마웅바 이나 쌈 네바 이나 쌈시 tek dadang chik ba yin bala yang nang yige ndrate sa marawa yore tene machil churang tenra chi samgu ri se phal kur chek do we pa ina som si ta tata rang nan jo de sem si de tata rang hakwar chi si be dong re gandar ta tata ngarang soke 가르스는 제르 ngaran soge tata tampe chudrebe karwa dinde bokapje ruwa chu ning go ba ina amchola kanga mi ba pecha la so ba lo ne yandon la so ba tandra ka thon che ba ina ya mail kanga mi ba ta na yin ke tenin do so che gom ne se yila si ne tene kantar sem ne tandra chi du tene semla yang kanga me de ba endu ta te ta kanga me de ba me ta amcho ta yi sem de so chama la kanga me de ba tu sun de ka wa zambo riha sam ran thu gu de kar chim bore jumsin ka se na Dosoyang, Tapa Timberang Yin Mare, Rimshin, Joan Rogoyori, Lopartung, Aranzo Jin Sebanda, Lovera, Yinzang, Gadu, Amchog Mova Chando, Matsula Mihi. Gadu make Montonga Chando, Matsula Mihi, Sujik Zobaji Mihi. Te Jimahi do. Ta tata yu de backup so, Takawa Zamboyan Bangon to Gojete, Munet Garchimbo Chad Yobare. The Jim Senate in Aronsoke, Ta Pinji Yore Samanda, want to. Pion oba ngon to Sardu, Della Dubake, Tang Musamanian, Yogo Yobare.
So we are explaining the benefits so that we can understand them. And now the reason why we can understand them in the first place is because we have a mind. And actually, in terms of the mind, we have heard many instructions in terms of the view, the natural state of the mind, and that its essence is knowing, and as a knowing capacity that is clear, a clear knowing. But then now from a relative, worldly, a general perspective, the mind is something that is able to know the state, the condition of phenomenon, and to explain the word mind from a grammatical perspective, the Tibetan term. So the term mind, we usually say it is sem, and sem is more like a verb form actually, which is a present tense verb. So sem is something a present knowing. It's a present knowing, and because when we would speak about it from like a future, in the future tense, then it's not, mind is no longer sem. That's why it's kind of a verb form. It's conjugated into some. So it becomes some for the future. So when we hear some, we know that it's the mind in the future. And in the past, it's also some, but it's a different spelling. It's just the same pronunciation. And then the imperative version, a form of sem or mind, is som, which is like kind of an imperative, like kind of think, like asking someone to do something. So therefore the word sem, the conventional term sem, which means mind, also implies grammatically that it is a present moment of mind, a present knowing. And so this is the mind that we have, and we are fortunate that we have the opportunity that we can practice Dharma. For example, we have no kind of hearing impairment, so we have ears that we can use to listen to the Dharma, and then we have eyes that allow us to read the scriptures or read prayers. So we don't have any problem with that. And then also we have a mind that we can use for meditation. So that's also not impaired. And so since we have an unimpaired ears, eyes, and a mind, that is why we have to understand that we really are fortunate. And also that these are things that are not always going to be there. They are not permanent. They will change slowly. And normally when things change, then often it happens quickly, like due to a sudden condition that arises. And we don't know when that will happen. And we don't know when we will not be able to see or able to read and so on. So nobody can say that when this is going to happen. So right now we possess these faculties, and therefore we can see ourselves as very fortunate. And with that faculty, the mental faculty, we can also recognize these benefits. And so with this recognition, therefore we must really make an actual effort to enter the actual practice.
Ngarang so jirdan dan jitin ka chawa dungkin ji inari chu nyamni jingkin inari du tata wade garchimbo chadu yore du tata wade du tamje nang ko sumpon rawo we na ngarang su nyamdo yobare debe kapso ngarang so ke kare chona chong simbare ta tela hyakpa ji dikpa dro yo na hyakpa ji geba dro na jisi rang ji ya de zam ku ju yor cha song re maung ba ni ngarang su su chi ke chu mthek pe ne tang ji re pena to go ma nyar de ba na sani hyoba nga ja cha jan jala ni ya se ne layang ji tereng tu chu na yi ji yong ge re se na da te ngene ke je tha na chu go na tha si po ji chu tung ki ka le kha bo ro wa te en za ta ta wa de gar chim bo cha du du ta rang ke thone te ni ngarang zo ken rewe ji yor the seven revers tan rewe ya po ji thop go yo cha tene tana wen ta tsek de so te sa da bo ja nam jun ta tsek de yang tsek ji bu ji san rang de wa na te cham ke pin tho chim bo che yo ma re de yin ya ka kwap su tsek la ti ne de ni hyu ke don da to pa la pin ge yo re te za ngarang zo ke nam jun sam no tang ne 소소 그 간다르 샘데 소소로 요자 된 소소 그 섬나 당고 이래 취에도 소냠네 지당다 지로도 소마 투인데 디지네 소소게 다 삼부톤네 삼직제네 삼나 당네 된라지 등네 저는 갈래 그 로테 코랑라지 조라지 용주 요데 바래 로든 조와 용네 연데 때네 제아 대바 다낭 탐제 흉체를 로와 tene tela tine che jamning je to so hyukcheran rowa che chuk ne lok to so ya timder da tu dop gran yin samje ser sem ne ran yin ko char hyar yong ba na yin ka dra yong ju yo ba re ta dra ji ri so wa ina ngaran so ga nam je ta ta par yin la phin da sung wan de ko joi to ne sung ko yo re dreb to ne so so lo phin ta de yo ba cha de yo re ngune da ne sa no ya ta wa ina 레베톤 소소랑 핀다데바 차도요레 대인장 어쩌게제 되다 남바군데 동크톤이 취드브제데 란동제 랑그 돈 드럽 요큰도사 네 란두 드럽고 산나 노랑가 요라 마도 취 세제데게 란동 드럽 요큰도 사면 니히제고요 니히 딩이 희지 용바이나 대체 안네 줄라 배중지 더고요래
So whether we are practicing the Dharma or we're engaging in the normal mundane activities, this kind of present moment is really always most important, actually, because it's the moment of where we actually are, where we live, right? We are alive in that moment. Because in the past, whatever happened in the past has already happened, and so whatever it was, if it was something negative, then what we can do now is confess it. And if it is positive, we can rejoice. But the past is in the past. And regarding the future, no one can say what is going to happen in the future. And for example, even if we go to sleep tonight, we don't know for sure whether tomorrow will be just like it was today. Nobody can determine that. And so the only thing that we really have is the present moment. And so therefore we have to use this present moment to make something fruitful out of it, and therefore it would be good to hold on to the words that we hear. Of course, that doesn't mean we should always follow the words that we hear. That's of no benefit, but sometimes then words can also help us to really understand something meaningful, and then it's beneficial. So anyways, this mind that we have, this present moment of mind, since this is what we have, we are also the ones who have to use it ourselves to think with it. So then if you keep reflecting on the nature of what you have heard and learned in the Dharma, then slowly through reflection and so on, the mind will transform, and as it changes, then your faith and a pure view begins to increase, and love and compassion increases. And that is because all phenomena are interdependent by nature. And so of this arises, understanding of that will then arise naturally. And so normally we say that we have to cultivate an altruistic mind. And we say that on the basis of the cause, because it is the cause, and altruistic mind is a cause. But actually from the perspective of the result, the real benefit will actually be ours, even though the cause is for the sake of others. The result will really be ours, because that's the cause of altruism leads to that result. And so therefore, however, it doesn't mean that, even though the truth is that Dharma practice is really for our own greatest benefit, of course, if we are practicing it with the intention for our own benefit, then that's a mistaken motivation. And so in any case, this is the point that we need to gain certainty in, and then make an effort in the cultivation of bodhicitta.
That day in that that sunam mixawaje. Then current scene to Goyoris Sendig one Sebaina. That day soon do Ganyang Chop Ju Hingnan Taeba Rinchin Jin de Jawa Nam La Po. La Dam May Devin Cho Nam Jang Hingedurni Garpar Proaves. That day Paja Chapson Log Gangi Movi Jabon that Tune Jancho Chogi Jisram Mission. Lenje Zaya Tepa Jibane, Suna Dampe Chodon Danjorosa. Tatel Hologa Ni Lunga Taralo in by Hologa Tambu Capsu, Garistin Yorisina. Ta Kanza Kayan Roma Sheke, Deni Cho Jua, Shalom no Zantan Samje La Sopa, Deni Tingoni, Cho Joke, 단 산제 그 흰칸 탐지 다 흰칸 탐지를 유부 그 산제 탐지 라더네 다 린탕 더 잡아 히바다 나랑 저그제 rumboche ke tana ke chala ha chang rinthang chebe tong ro de ta wo ke teni jin perna zong zi da ni zi ta tela so ba ke treshim zi la so ba ke ta tana ke ngobo teni katse che phawan ta karpa par de teni chuba ben per ba yin yang ta sun dik sunam de ngone je sang ta na sunam de ha chang ke sunam chenpo cha de yor ba ro yin yang ganza dik sunam de jekji sunam ni pa de ganza kan ro de hyolo ka ni ba nang ganza kan ro he ki zambo ju bo mola jek tu na am jol jek tu molam de hi ma je gen de he jang de am jol jek tu ne danim la na me pa sanje chi kompang ro ba che de la je simnang ne je mu ba ro je lam se ji ne che ten mu ba ke ji ne de ba yong go yo wa de nyen de he hyu sen de yin za de ba je lam se de ba je ji ba yin na di ke su nam de ha jang ke de ne da hi ke su nam de ze le de ne che par de ba ba re is
So then the aspiration or the merit that will be, that can be accomplished in this lifetime through this aspiration prayer, and that's in the next verse, which is a combination of two verses. There's two verses here, and it's on page 58 in the blue prayer book. It's called Benefits of the Aspiration. Whoever offers to the victorious Buddhas all the perfect joys of gods and men, and the infinite realms of the 10 directions adorned with jewels for as many aeons, as there are atoms in those realms, shall gain great merit. But whoever hears this greatest dedication prayer and is inspired by faith to intensely desire supreme enlightenment shall gain even higher and holier merit. So the first, so basically it's 2 verses here, and in the first one, so making offerings to all those Buddhas in the infinite realms of the 10 directions. 10 directions, the 4 cardinal, 4 intermediate, upper and lower direction, and then all the Buddhas, making offerings to all the Buddhas abiding in the various pure realms in all of these directions, with an infinite array of jewels or something that is things that are extremely valuable, like ornaments and pleasant forms and sounds and smells and so on. So even if one were to make all these offerings for endless aeons, the merit of that, of course, will be also inconceivable, great merit. But then secondly, it says, but one who just hears this dedication prayer, this prayer for excellent conduct, for example, when you hear a teaching on this prayer of excellent conduct, the result of that will be the attainment of supreme enlightenment, unsurpassed enlightenment. And because when one hears about this prayer, one may give rise to this moment of wanting to attain enlightenment, and that just to have this moment of wanting to attain enlightenment is a far greater merit. So I have said in the past that it begins with aspiration. So first you have an aspiration to attain enlightenment, and then that aspiration leads to faith. And that faith that arises in enlightenment is a far greater merit than making all of these offerings.
Tati Puyon de Nidorn de Samno Tonsa Gaheje Yore, J. Garerisina, Pion de Pan Zer de Vichanin Samno Tango Yore. Perna Narazogichin Martang Teni Yanlando, Yanla, the Sokichin Chumeji Lebaina, Chume Katse, Tamon Bolekina, Leke Yanko, the Chume aparts at the Tenico to Sutunton and Panzerdova. Teni Naranzo and the law and Mataka Koran law teleche, Nibachimbo Yubaji, David, Lone Lolok or Pichu down the Choyore. Yang that Tetaji. They in the Tang Naranzo Sanjelaje. Tin la teni zone zipa kana bala soba keche kado yidong wa kan chuba dang nam chola dranyin ba ke tanda ke chen chuba dang je la ro xian ben chuba dang tene ta lula rizan jam ben chuba dang na la tra xian ben chuba ta de la de tu ba ke teni ta singer la so ba ta rombo che ke jim ka ton som kan da kang ne phar de ba yin ya ti sunam te teni yang zen rogo yore zeya dea tusu tongtong na zen rogo yore da hi sunang ngima de la tuna perna ngarang zo ke tanda ke sunang mambo ji sakba la tene mulu je top mulu top de da me je tesa jonjora yo ba lun chu tin yo ba teni top ganos kanza yo ba ro je ke jewa ji la na yang de da nyam de la ngarang zo ke mege wa ke jawa mambo ji ji indu Then sunam the kahe sosola termin and the kahe na give take a top command ze, then tanatra or it's a then Jima bedagor, Tambola supolong, lotavaji in a Jima kalekala, Tambola yadana, ye chando, Mambodo, Garansukotoa. Then the so detavaji chayango yori, kun ze, Jobo, zendoko yori. That ke sunam lenje zanya debaji. Zamboju Molan the Tune, Linje Zanya Debajine, Lami Sanji Gompon Tomdu Lo, Gejima Jibaina, Dig Sunam de, then it he gala Lola Bay Yabana Yink, Jun Rimbo Hujigla, then Netogoyova, Carva, then Netop, Nene, Tinite, Megawa, and the Changchunake, then he called Yomutaba, kinds of called Nebachung Tosunova. That the na we sound down the did take to soke. Simna che pinto yong yore de mayin ba che samno che hira matang ter chena de o che che geja te hira che semna che nguli ji to ya des kable ro che yore dambu kaps samno tangi te sola ngune ke che nishin rin che yore de jum sene de na chame de son dun du samno ya bo tang de son chu hie ka chu so tu yon de samno ya bo tang so so rani ke samno tang dag sam bu top da tang so 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 le ne ba de yore samno ne churang ke nyam de le de chu ni ke zap ke la yo ba ro de ta na san ju no no ro ba kap so ya ngune ta ne de ne de so ka la samno tang ka le ke lo te chi gomna lawa mai pe se gonso na le lapo mai bu ngobo chikjang yo mare su mare den za lo de ranking ke koran culture chin joro yo wa ji yore dan den jin joro na ne kap che kepin la sa no ta na ya che cha dang mu san dang da so ke che sam no de ko ka ndo do de ko ka ndo de su su rani dewa ji cha de yore ne dewa la dewa yin ba nga chu che ngo ro ma hi ra ro mun chu ti ka nga che ri me se samno ya po ta na ten so so ke sem de hwa lu ba ji yong wan de so ya de su samno to na je ge to ne yong yong ge yo wa ten tin chu de so ke na samno to dang ke thalam de ti yong ge yo re samno de no so so rang la yo re samno de ti chu pe cha pe de na de so yo mar wa
So the marriage, the benefit, there's many benefits, but for example, to give one example of how how great the benefit is. For example, if you think of a candle or a butter lamp flame, it is just like once you burn it, once you put fire on it, then it will be gone after a short while. The candle will just use up all the wax or the oil. And on the other hand, for example, if we compare that to electricity, that is much more powerful. You can use that for many years. So that's kind of like the difference in different kinds of benefits. So, for example, if we make these great offerings to the Buddhas of beautiful forms and with beautiful colors and so on, and pleasant sounds and sweet taste, and something that is kind of gentle to touch, and sounds and so on. If one makes all of these offerings, for example, even if we're to make an offering of a butter lamp that fills up the entire infinite universe, eventually, even though it is vast, it will still come to an end if we compare it to this merit of giving rise to faith for just a moment. So however vast our merit is, it will come to an end. For example, now we have accumulated a lot of merit. So we have found the precious human body, and we might experience material wealth and a good health and power and so on. But then together with that also we have accumulated a lot of negative actions, and then some of them, when they ripen, then the power of one's virtue begins to decline. And we can see how it often happens. Somebody, for example, first is as rich, as wealthy as a naga, and then in the end they turn out to be as poor as a hungry spirit. So that is because merit is coming to an end. And however, this merit here you're speaking about is inexhaustible. If we just, for example, give rise to a moment of faith when we hear about this aspiration prayer of excellent conduct, if for a moment we want to attain enlightenment, when we give rise to faith, then this merit of that intention will last for many aeons. And even if in between some unwholesome activities and thoughts arise in our mind, then still this thought will, this merit of our faith will outlive that, and these negative thoughts can never destroy it because it is much more powerful. So it will always endure. And so then, because we have this mind, we also have to use it to reflect. Because if we don't reflect on a meaning then of what we hear, for example, then it will be more difficult to really recognize its meaning of what we speak. So we reflect about on the merit and then gain certainty in it, and then conclude that it is indeed very meaningful. For example, when we just listen to the teachings. And we have that ability because it's our mind, and we speak about the power of our own thought, our own intention, our own mind. And that mind is with you all the time, 24 hours a day, around the clock. Even when you go to toilet, it's there. You have your mind. And we just have to habituate to the reflection. It is said that if you habituate, whatever you habituate to will come easy. There is nothing that will not be easy when you habituate to it. Because whatever you habituate to, it will naturally transform your mind. So think about these benefits. And when you reflect in this way and you habituate, then this habituation of reflection will naturally close the doors to thoughts of attachment and aversion. And when that is closed, then you will experience more well-being, more happiness. Otherwise, it's hard to recognize happiness. But if you really reflect well, then your mind will be peaceful and relaxed. So peace and relaxation really comes from your own mind. The Dharma just gives you a method of reflection and how to reflect, but you have to still reflect yourself on the benefits, so that the Dharma books are not going to reflect for you.
Tenida Tiodo Devin Shikba, Tungwe Pion Shibandere, Delata, Lopertunga, the Jobung in Ba. There. Lopertung Atang, Jobung in Ba Bangbe, Devin Shiban Tung Pions. Ta Devin Shiba Montonga, the Carresina. Ta lopar to ma nginsong ke ne la tong so ai na te yin chi ban thong to ko ma re so nya wa ya da tun ro te ne te mai ta me tang ta ra ke che wa yin na te yin chi ba ke chu ju ke ngu so thong khin ya yo ba re te me na long chu zo bu ke te ma thong na ya tru bu ke ma bo che thong to ko yo ba re te ta dam bo te ha ko ko re Zambo jobo molan den dai yondu dek pion deke dambo lopar to wa tanye pang ro ris lopar to wa ngi song da nye pang ro ris song dek ngi song pang wan de susu ki ngi song de pang ro yor kandar susu ngi song de kandawe pang ro yor serdu zambo jobo molam deke top latine ngi song ke go kan ro yor susu ngi song la pang ro sa ke go de kan ro yor Kan roate kareresina churang ngin sonlon roate churang ke semda number shibate rogo yorwa number shibate kalo jone yan thori tene ta thamchen chimba sala yar loka jonro go yore te jorndi ti ke ta khapso sina sabcho tena tene ta ngin song ke ne yo mare thamchen chimba ke sala ngin song ke ne yo mare wa ti jimsen tene darate ni song tong ro yor tene da ju tamjen je ba sal so na pe na ngarang zo dewa jin ji xin kan le song wa yin na yang je tene der yu be ganza tamji tene sanje da jang chu so ba hya da yin ba la da la mo sen na ya de cha ma go jang chu so ba da sanje da jang chu so ba hya da yin song ko yo wa tene de yin za ngi song ko tong ne dam je tong ro ris di jum sen de nan da la Gangi Zangju Mulam de Tapi Dini Ngin Song Tamje Pangwan Jor Sonjo Dere. Dene Dio de Dine Dropu Ngin Ba Pang Ba Yi Nawan Taye Deyang Dinyor Tongs. Dene Dropu Ngin Ba Yang Dela Dine Pang Roko Yore Sore. Ta Dropu Ngin Ba Hibande Ta Dropu La Pena Reng Mambo Yorowa Je Da Ja Chungsan Zang Da Na Soso Namjun Je Go Mejin Kin So Mujun Kin Deta Vecheke Kansaji Ina Yang Dropo Ta Soki Hyukjin Dune Dine Kale Kale De Soso Jakpa Chan Ro Yang Rao Tang Dine Soso Je Yin La Yin Ke So Ju Ba La Dine Sernang Me Ba Hinang Me Ba De Ta Chan Ro Ya Yore De Chan Ni Jik Dere Yang Dropo Ngin Ba Si Ba De Give Hini Ta Give Hini Ro Chak Yo Mari Hi De Hini Ngin Ba Je So Je Gore Samaro Dene Dipa Drop Gore Sendong Ki Yang To Sipare So Galel Din Ta De Tam Je Chama Pang Ro Yore Se Ta Pang Tang De Gara Pang Re Se De Yang Sang Tang Zanju Molan De Don De Susu Ke Semlan Jorwa Tae Yong Yore Susu Semlan Jorwa Tae De Den Susu Dropo Je Guma Jan Do Ki De Susu Ke O Ko Ji Lo Mi Samya Ke Sam No Ko Yong Ro Wa Susu Dropo Je Yin Ke So Je Ba La Na Mi Je Zo Lo China Yin Ke So Ju Do Ke Na Susu Ngue Ne O So Ju Ning Ke Mari Samya Ke Sam No Ko De Den Sam No Del De Ne Den Lo Nga Yong Su Do Ba Ke Tem De Song Yong Ko Yor Wa De Da Vres
So then the second point of those three is the benefit of seeing the Sugata Buddha, and this abundance, so this seeing, also, so it's the other way around. So by abandoning negative companions and misleading and negative companions, one will see the Sugata. And then the verse here is the next one on 58. Whoever recites the aspiration of Samantabhadra will never again endure hellish rebirth, will abandon evil friends, and will soon behold Amitabha, the Buddha of boundless light. So the evil companions one will abandon. The first one is the hellish. Sorry, so here it says the lower realms. So that this hellish rebirth is the lower realms, so the three lower realms. One will not see or see or endure. Anyways, one will not see one will not encounter the lower realms because, for example, now, because one abandons, first of all, negative friends or companions. So first, there are like those who in their life, they see like positive beings, that they see the Dharmakaya, or they see, if not, then they see the Sambhogakaya, or they see many see the Nirmanakaya. So one will understand them through reciting this prayer for excellent conduct. So one will have kind of a sight. One will see, behold the Buddhas, and in this way, actually, one will not naturally abandon the lower realms, because the lower realms are something that is just existing in our own mind. The lower realms are our own mind, and so how they are abandoned is that the doors to birth in the three lower realms is blocked through this prayer, and because it's the mind that is going. What goes to the lower realms is the mind or the consciousness. And it's just like when the consciousness turns around and is facing then upward toward enlightenment, the state of all-knowingness, then there is no 3 lower realms in that direction. And so this is where the consciousness is turning to through this prayer. And so therefore, as a result of that, for example, one goes to the Pure Land of Dewa Chen, and once one is there, one will only see the beings there, which are all only Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and gods and goddesses, and there's completely no lower realms there. And in terms of these, what's it called here? The evil friends or kind of negative companions, there's many different kinds. On a smaller scale, for example, if you're, for example, not someone who is stealing or killing and so on, but then if you kind of associate with someone who does engage in these activities, then eventually you become a bit desensitized to this kind of conduct, and then you will not kind of resist it so much, and will not feel too much hesitation any longer to steal or to kill and so on. And so then you naturally kind of fall under this influence. So that is like a companion. Sometimes it's also possible it could even be like a teacher who might tell you, oh, it's virtue, it's good to kill and do negative things, and then if you follow that, then you're under this influence. So all of that, this following of all sorts of evil companions will be abandoned through this prayer, and that is because through this aspiration prayer, the mind transforms. And so, and even if you are actually encounter someone who isn't too hesitant about stealing, then you will still immediately recognize, this is still wrong, I shouldn't steal. Or somebody tells you, or somebody's killing, then you just naturally, you won't be influenced because you will know that this is wrong, this is not okay. So then you wouldn't do it. And in this way, you will just naturally observe a disciplined conduct of bodies and speech and so on.
Tene di tsigang tamana dana nawan taye deyang di nyor tong sang. Ta zambu jubu molan de tabala tene chuka nawan taye gandar chu juka deyang deke nyor tong jobo tong tabu yore sumbare. Dan de namje ngarang zu dewa jing ke molan na dana yuwa. Yang tsab gab gasu ngarang zu dewa jing jingana jiba zamji dani gobo ba me tsu lamsa hyanjar tokuyo mari se metope me babla jurumbo ne gowa katra yang lesa na le del de bende mingre son ta tikal nga ksam no ro metope man na jurumbo de yak lesa ro pe ma khamazena deni te gobo ba me hyanji me to se yo de gal nga ke de jurumbo ro sam no tangnyo and gobo ba me shen ji cha tarong gobo ba me he min ji se kare re se da ten ro kan no ina sam sam ro che yore ta san no ya bo je tan so so rang cher pe jar sam ta ta chi ji wang mo ma ke le dang chen de ge ji mam bo ji le ten no che so so ra ni ke je nam ba san ji be chu ju go lo hyu ya ke so nam je yo ta la ma ge hi ni ha jang ge za chi mo ne ta ne san ji ngus fe yong ba ta 탐지 근도네 데네 숭추 탐지 톱 당화 톱 냠스 린당 간가자 히바 있나야 이따 냠스 린다 벤제 추나 파히에 히바다 당 초가 집주나와 테스트에서 히바 가와 트르트고 가완 다른 드라마 트로그나와 히데와 대잠제리 다 마히바 가레 라도 요레스 란섬 산지 임바 ngô 마히 남도 추게 임바 도마도세 다 로트라 mambo chela 제 투상곰 섬다고 제 초가 집중다고 돈 봐야나 란섬 산지인 방어마 히스 다 가리린 바래다 때 대상다는 은네 다 제와 나마다고 다 제나 간달 주 레사부 값서 레게와 mamboche sa yabaina ya tinane mandangwa cha pena zambo chubo mola la donjola so bata de solo che de tone ta nyamni chi simba che majong ba ta ro che ngone da ne tene ran tho ya yo da oba mi hen chi no ba min ji si ba de kunzob ju ngo tone song yong ge dong go tola oba message de churang rani ke sem ke kuye na dara de de ning bo de wa chugo oba mi ser go ya de 우 세제데 가장 알아서 그 내게 휴신 바를 우 히바데 서비스찬 송용 거로 고 드마 달 송을 찬이 서버래 아 데네디오 들 체 야르드미 바라소바 탐지 그다 간다 데와다 똥응어임 체 야르드미 바리 가인스네 데 데와다 똥응어 임베찬네 다데 능아랑도 소소 사운드나 다 당에 따라 나그 페이지 라는 휴임바 다 지는 바 소소 그 직선노지 따라 다다 바드 남발락 쇼는 로 같이 친소 곰 자바인 베선 곰 자바인 참로 유바인 베선 참로 유바인 향동 조바인 베 향동 조바인 다 텔소바 mambo 참아 제바인 삼산지요 다 란삼산지 망고 희송에 세드 다 라브리나 갑갑스 희송 세대야 항상 야보르 계지지 그 조산지 가가스 힌도 센 린장케 요지리 데나 앞에 메시 야보리 계지지 그 조산지레 데 예네야다 문에 양 단지지인데 깔렌 테겐도 스틴 테게 요레 디줌진에 되는 거알아 요데 바레 가서 참 단다 상은 돈데 다 나완타에 티야 테니어 통 히베 체 코랑나 티네 소소 라니 런데히 땡사보지 자용 거 요바 란투야 요바레스
This line here will soon behold Amitabha, the Buddha of boundless light. So it is said that when we make this aspiration, prayer for excellent conduct, then one can quickly behold the Dharmakaya Amitabha. And one will quickly take birth in Deva Chan. So we say that when we make this prayer, then we take birth in Deva Chan, and then in an instant we can see Amitabha. But then sometimes it is also due to karma that one takes birth in Deva Chan, but one takes birth in this closed lotus flower, and so due to the karma, one isn't able for a long time to see the Buddha Amitabhas because the flower doesn't open for a long time. So one is in Deva Chan, but one still can't see Amitabha. And I was actually thinking about this point quite for a long time. I was wondering why this is that when one is already born in Deva Chan, that why one cannot see the Buddha Amitabha. And so just to take myself as an example actually made me understand it. So it is due to some karma and some conditions from previous life that, for example, I was able to have the merit to enter the Buddha Dharma, and I have met really special, very precious spiritual teachers who are actual Buddhas, and then from them I have received many instructions, many teachings, and then I've engaged in practice and with an understanding of knowing how to practice, and also have understood the Dharma and teaching, and maybe I know how to do various rituals and play the instruments and so on, like the Dhamma room. And yet, what is it that I don't know? It is said that my own mind is the Buddha, but I never recognized that. And thoughts are Dharmakaya, but I haven't realized that. So that's a quote. And so even though one might know some rituals and so on, still, even though I know rituals, I might not have recognized the nature of the mind, that my mind is actually Buddha. And that is really that cause also from previous lives. So even though I've created certain causes, then because also we do many other things, then many other virtuous activities, even though there are many, they're not enough. So that is also a sign of maybe
Zanju molan de kala nyamni.
That's why it's a sign of so in previous lives not having I read my writing sometimes, not having really practiced the prayer for excellent conduct, or kind of held on to it or kept it. So basically what this is to say is that beholding Amitabha actually is a conventional concept to see something, but actually Amitabha is the Dharmakaya, and it's actually one's own mind. It's my own Buddha nature. So his name is also the Buddha of boundless light, and I mentioned that term before in the different teachings previously. And so this light here, is boundless light, is the clarity of one's own mind that is boundless when it becomes stainless. And when it becomes stainless, then one experiences bliss, which is like the great bliss of Deva Chan. So this bliss is also empty in self-nature. So this is what one actually beholds, and when one beholds Amitabha. And so this was just one personal example. You can also think for yourself how it is for you. For example, we have been Buddhists maybe for a very long time. How many years ago have you entered the Buddha Dharma? So maybe you would say many years ago. And have you practiced meditation? Yes. And have you done retreat? Also yes. And have you done many prayers? We have done so many prayers, yes. But have you recognized your own mind to be the Buddha? So there are some who ideally do say yes sometimes, or maybe for a moment, because in one instant we are a Buddha. But then again, does self-grasping arise? Yes, again. It arises again, and even though we have seen it, self-grasping arises, and then again we accumulate karma, and so that's why we are still in samsara. So this is the line here, we'll soon behold Amitabha, a boundless light. So this actually is something that can be explained really vastly.
Ta ti kholo kanan din tarong ko kwa lenya yore. Kwa kare lenya yore sede tropo ngimba seba de sori sede soso ju ge nyomo ba de so tropo ngimba re. Ta choram hedang chimbo chin na choram tropo ngimba de hedang re. Choram hedang tropo de yore. Tene choram chado chimbo chin na tene choram ke tropo ngimba de chado re. Tene choram ke chado la tropo de yore. Te na yin ke choram timok chimbo chin na marik pa te tene choram ke tropo zune de yore. Ta tso lo tine kantar tene kare chike yore sidu tene choram ke ngune ke tropo yabo give tara de tambe chu ji tropo tamje la kyun tong ke yore. Kyun tong du ta pang mogo ya ke soso ke tambe chu ji tropo ngune soso lo che tambe chu ke tone ta lamdon tang roram chinkin tamje la kyun tong du te choram ke jang de ya yo ke yore. Don ro yore. Ta choram ke tene chadam mungsom ke tanda leka chinkin chi rang jar yin phang la subo ke che ta tanda ke chawa kantar ko mang ni song la man roya ke tene tanda ke thamje la kyun thong to ko yo mar gain sina koran so rain thun ba cha de yore marai bo chim bo jing kan marai ba de marai bo chim yin ke marai ba da tene korang ring tumba chade yore perna mumba da mumba ring tumba re nawa da nawa ring tumba re ti na yinke tene pa ta ngin son lon dwa ke tene le de mang sa ndu ta tobo ngin ba hi ba de slo ke ma jela tambo ko ya po ri du po re se ya ga chap de su su nang ke nyumong ba de so tene tobo ngin ba yen ba ha ko ta te ha ko si bala tene de ke zambo ju mo lan de top le tene ha ko ta top le tene si de so so ke zambo ju mo lan ndu tene tela tusam chi nyamli chi tanda chi du tene ta su su ju ke nyum ba tam che juun jin ba ha ko ne tene te ha ko ne ta te pa wala te chi du ta tene trobu zambo dan ba cha ge yor e choran hirap chimbo jin je na chu ke ne lo tang tam bi chu ke to la so zo kap so jer na sam no de tela hyo chimbo tang yo ya tene choran zuba chimbo jin je na tene yin ge juun dang gantar so so lo mundu ba da mni ba kang te je ba yin na ya tene ko amcho ye ne ni ba yin na ya yu ni pang tang to ba tanda je cha ge yo ba ro ta te yin zu ngaran zo la number ju ben nam ju se jen de san je ju gong pang to je ge nam ju je yu ba re de ngne ge je san je ge lam la ta be ju tang go ngaran zo ka che lo chung chung yin ser na yang jiktin sama la tha nyeran rong ke re per na lakha ke nyama de lakha ni khara ngo chung ni zon de nabso ke nabro ni ma yo ya la tha nyeran ro go yo ba yin de nga chung ne kare ma ko kare se ba ina kharso ke nyama yo ro de kharso ni ya kharwa de nyam de la tinik ma nabso la ko tha nyeran ro ma to tha ren ro ya ke yo ma re pe te yin do nga zo jiktin sama lan royal ta nyer ma do ro yo mare tan jiktin sama lan royal ta nyer songwa ina chung chung ge yo mare kan sa ngarang chulu goya ge tene tambe chu de toni nyamni ya bo ji ta ba ina de ne dev lam lan ro de yin hi ba cha ro yo ro ba je dewa ne dev sal pan ro yo ba yin za de sem jo go ya ta da ge yo mare de ma je ba yin me che ne ton ro teni ta le ngimba ne zapcher cher sa na tana chen du teni ngin song men ta mi ba hi ba de la chan ro go yo za teni je ngune ta ne dewa hi be meng za ya tu sa me sa je la tanda je long ro go yo ba yin za teni ngarang zo ge chen hi tin ne ta nyam ni nang go yo ba re la par de teni di kap sa na wan ta ye tin ya ten yor thong se man dong yo ba kap sa sem na lam se rang sem de ngo hi go yo ba de ha go go yo re oba mi se ban de rang sem le los ju ba je me pa ma je sem korang oba mi ba de ngo hi go yo ba re sem korang oba mi yin ba de ngo hi so ma yin na de ne jo ge ta je chen de la san ta wa yin na soso ne gawa de gawa songa ina oba mi hingan la longje no sonde ba na yin je cha de yo ba re den zan de ning ara zo ge de ge chik je de gar chen bo hyu je cha de yo res
These evil friends, it's also another way to understand that, and that is so who is our actual evil companion? So our actual evil companions are really our afflictive emotions, actually. So, for example, if you have a lot of anger, then anger is your evil companion. Or if you have a lot of jealousy, then jealousy is your evil companion. Or if you have a lot of ignorance, ignorance is your evil companion. And then because we have these evil companions in our mind, then the way we see things from this perspective is that those who are actually good companions, like our Dharma friends, our Dharma companions, then we see their faults. And then we see the qualities in those who we actually should abandon. But the ones that we actually should not abandon, which are our Dharma companions, like those who help us on the path and who show us the path and so on, we only see their faults, and then we put them more we distance ourselves from them. And then we feel more drawn to those companions that engage in activities with attachment and aversion and ignorance, and who do things that for their own benefit, to gain victory and to bring defeat to others. So they are those who actually drag one into the three lower realms, but we can't see that fault. And the reason why we can't see the fault in that is because we are of a similar kind because of ignorance. So when two people are ignorant, then they are of a similar kind, and then they feel attracted to each other. It's just like darkness is attracted to darkness, and light is attracted to light because they are of similar kind. And then one engages in activities that will drag one eventually into the lower realm if one follows these friends, these companions. So instead of labeling external outer people as positive or negative companions, the positive or negative companion should be found within one's mind. So the real negative companion are one's own afflictive emotions. And we know that, we realize that also through the power of this prayer for excellent conduct. And then if we recite this prayer, we study it and we practice it, it will help us to recognize the fault of our afflictive emotions. And so we will abandon them. And in this way, we will disassociate from this negative companion. And if one possesses a great intelligence or wisdom, then one's tendency to practice the holy dharma will increase, will be stronger. For example, then if you're someone who already has developed that and has a lot of patience, and even though you might see someone having faults or doing things that are wrong and so on, then, or saying something unpleasant, so then you would just, basically you hear it with your right ear, but then it goes out again the left ear. So you're able to do, to just let it kind of pass through you like that. So that intelligence is what accomplishes Buddhahood eventually. And is that intelligence that must be utilized for that sake, to attain the state of Buddhahood. And then the more we utilize it in this way, the closer we get to Buddhahood. It's just like the sun is rising in the east and then setting in the west, and it's the moment it rises, it's already getting closer and closer to setting. It never gets lesser than that. And so just like that, in this life, with each moment, we are getting closer to the next life and never more distant. But then if you have the Dharma, then that's not a big problem, because if you have practiced the Dharma well, which is what we should do, then we will just proceed from happiness to happiness, which is the meaning of the word Sugata or Buddha, a one gone to bliss. So that is how we should practice. But because if not, if we just spend our kind of utilize this intelligence for doing negative things, accumulating negative karma, and associating to these negative friends, then that tendency will increase, and then negative karma will become predominant, and that will create the endless wandering in the three lower realms for us. And then once we have fallen down to such a miserable state of existence, not even the name of happiness exists there, not even the concept of happiness exists there. You won't even hear about it at such a place. And so therefore, right now, it's important to practice with mindfulness, and so also to recognize, to reflect on the meaning as you read the prayer for excellent conduct. And so here, the beholding Amitabha, the Buddha of boundless light. So again, the Buddha of boundless light, Amitabha, is nowhere else but in your own mind. So, and it is your own mind that has to be recognized as Buddha Amitabha. So then, even in this life, you can actually see the Buddha Amitabha without going to Devachan. Then it will be just like that. Then your mind and this life, wherever you go, whatever you do, will become just like this Pure Land of Devachan. So this is also an important line here.
Around some no go Tony dang Yarwata Dara Shinkam Dang in Song Shibanda so some no go Tony Yonko Bande, some the top go Tony Yonko Bande, Benson Berry Huvana, Churang the Churang go Tropoji ni Nevin Bajil Chimbaina Nevin Badene JK Da o Nevin Bade Hajang Hua then Linja Yoba, Dandake, Deni, Koryo Kawuk Zama, the Telesopa, Yung Dinji Tong. Tene Yimba take da, oh, that de ne in battle. Gayang, Modos, Sakang, Modos, Tongang, Modos, that Telesopa Sano Jitan, the Coroni, some of the Loa Chasomara. Loa Chadu, Kanzachi, the get a Junjing Tong Yongo, that name in battle, Modo, Modoxa, Juma Boje, Tong. Tele tine ne wimba tele yung tinji yu na yang tong tu ko mare kanza yin de ga tambo ne wimba tele ko yo lingja la so ba tanak ton sano che ko tin ti lo de ya jen do ren yin de ko tin ne wimba tele yung tin de chere tong ko yo den ti ga yung tin de chere tong de ko ti yung tin de long su ju ti yung tin de long su chere yin de ko rang ge tin tong ya ge yung tin de teng sa ro de tene 당문에 그거다 되게 소 간사데 데사데 제 담본네 짜친 보인 봤다 왜질라 삼는 거 되네 램지름제 제다 타나 제 사도라서 버게 이앱당 카도 순주 담제 제 산제다 장초 선발라서 버게 남바니다 도버게 나와 혀 되네 램지 되게 나와 되게 샘도 왕도 조용도 되네 갈래 되네 다제 무서 제 신간 인데 봤다 대답은 통긴 간사 요러와 다 대답 간사니를 빼 야반 드나레 디글람니 되는 거랑 저게 오 샘고토니 저랑게 다제 신감이 봐도 또 더바데 드나리 세드 제 하고야 나오지라 핀보 요사리 삼성
So therefore through one's own mind, the power of one's own mind, that one goes to hell and to 3 lower realms and so on. So it all has to do with the force of that is the force of one's mind that drives one there. To give one small example, for example, there's you and your friend, and you go. So there's 2 friends, and you go to. Together you go to an isolated place. So one friend might think that this is such a peaceful place and the environment is so clean, the air is clean. So that friend sees a lot of great qualities in that place. The other friend might feel that there's nothing here, this isolated place. There's no restaurants, there's no shops. So they feel like this is not here and that is not here. And so on. So basically, they just see a lot of faults in that isolated place. So this is how they see it differently. And so because that person thinks that nothing is here, they can't see the good qualities of the place. And while the other person, the first friend, thinks about the great qualities like the clean air and so on, and the peace of that place, and then keeps thinking about that, and then that thought grows, and then that person will see even more qualities in that isolated place, and then that gets even more deep, and it becomes really seeing this like a pure land. So first you just think that, oh, this is a very special place, and then you keep thinking about it, and you keep seeing it that way gradually. then everything starts to look much more pure. All the earth and the rocks and all the in its shapes and different colors and so on, you will begin to see it as like the forms of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And so slowly, as this perception then increases, it will finally kind of control your mind. This is going to be then your general kind of default perception. And then everything is just naturally seen as a Pure Land. And so there are people who see it like that. So I think this is how we can understand when we say that, realize also that your own mind, when the Pure Lands are within your own mind.
Tene da sumba de ni ba dang, chowa dang, yewa, rapto ngapa to be chirer, chanchu sumba dang, karwa nyamba ni to be pinyus. Da te so tsek te so re yuna man de hie jang yong go yore. Te da ni ba ram ni de warn so me chen de yang te da lek par ong. Kundu zambo te chen ra war te da rempor moto. Rengpor moto te yin yoros. Da zambo jubo mulan dem kin che. Da mulan dep sina kandar zambo jubo mulan dung. Zambo jubo mulan che. He zogor. Dene zambo jubo mulan sam. Zambo jubo mulan gom. Tenda jinkin tam che. Kare yongo yore sedu. Nipa namjin cho. Kare re sedu. Dene la name ba ni toko yores tambo ni hiba de tonterwa te daram ni sedu teni molam tara molan rombo chi la name ba de ni be serdo e zambo chi bo molan de ba te da tamche de da namba kondo devar chogo yores 다한데 대원초 희반데 다 가나베 대원초 듣고 요랬을때 저 돈에 대화 담치 셈라토 요래양 된드 junjok chimana shanti dewa ke son yore rimboche ter tandrawa ke tini ngaranzu ke semdala sawa samje machapa yores sawa samje machapa shibande semde nala nenga chimbo je yore shiba tongre nenga de hakwa ina tini ta tuta napa kunde tini dewan so tuko yore sonre de indu ta ngaranzu ke zambo jubu molan de ke tseke tondo sore tine pena churang kanga chimbo jinchi kanza ji ina yang zambo jubu molan goni man talan don dukse tela tsek da don sam tong do na de ka rangin ke dewa ta trowa ji meter khami ji cha de yore ngunen su nam ta phiyong do sore la sam ta wa ina pena pugi ji ngon do yo na pugi tel ngin pa je te na lamsang ko cham ya ge yore yang na pugi te ama na wo te na ngon do yo na ama yong do si tsek ji lab ya na pugi chira mang ama yong do se ya wan ti tsek del tin ne ko lamsang ngo ya cham yo ge yora ti na yin ge tene kanga da dongha jamso ta na ma sa de ba kanza ji ina ya ti zambo ju mo lan te ndra ndo ne tene ti ka samno te ti zambo ju mo lan te na pa ya ne ndo de tene ta dewa ja chimbo je lamsang top ma so ba ina ya dongha de ka tabala te ma chom pa ta ba ji cha de yoro kap de de yin za tene dewan so hi ba de nguyu ne chur cha de ba de ndra re is.
And then the third point here in the text is that the benefit of obtaining equal fortune of the Bodhisattvas, or that one's attaining a fortune that will be equal to that fortune of the Bodhisattvas, and that benefit is for the sake of attaining a kind of gaining like it says attainments and livelihood and one's life. So basically benefits that will be attained in one's life. And that's the next verse. So they will gain all benefits, live in happiness, attain precious human rebirth, and soon become like Samantabhadra himself. So the first one is they will gain benefits, which is like they will gain, like it's literally first, of all attainments, they will gain supreme attainment. So for gain all benefits. And so that is someone who recites this prayer of excellent conduct, or who reads it or explains it or contemplates it or meditates on it. Anyone who does that, they will attain the supreme attainment, or the benefit, again, a supreme benefit in this life, which is the unsurpassed benefit. And so what is the purpose of that benefit? It is then to live in happiness. So through reciting this prayer of excellent conduct, they will live in happiness, because happiness arises when you recite this prayer. It is, for example, in the Shanti Deva's Bodhicharya Avatara, is said that it is like a precious jewel treasure. That is the precious jewel treasure is this inconceivable positive mind. So that is what will bring you happiness. And there's a lot of important things to be understood about this, but most importantly is that one will live in happiness. One will be able to live in happiness in this life. When you think about it, if you're just reciting some lines of this prayer for excellent conduct, even though you might have a lot of difficulties, but when you are reading this prayer from the beginning to the end and your mind is actually there and you're thinking about the meaning of the verse that you are reciting, then at least for that period of time, you will naturally feel happy. In fact, you will not be able to help yourself but feel happy. So you can't help but be happy when you read those lines and have your mind really focused on it. For example, if a child is crying and you give it a little gift, like a little candy, it will instantly stop. Or if a child is calling for its mother, is crying, calling for its mother, thinking of the mother, and you tell the child, oh, your mother is on her way, she's coming, then the child will immediately stop. And so maybe it's a bit like that when we have some difficulties or we are suffering, since we are in this suffering, ocean of suffering, but still, if you recite this prayer for excellent conduct, then if our mind is able to really focus on its meaning while we are reciting it, then at least for the time being, while we are reciting it, the mind will stop being miserable. Even, of course, if we are not able to accomplish everything that we wish for instantly, but at least for the time being, we will stop the miserable thoughts in the mind. And so this is really how this prayer, the benefit of this prayer is really to live in happiness.
Dela ni cho shibada teni jewa shiba som yor de tsike nand. Tendu tani shibande yeze jane lana me pa changchu company ba de re de ta renwen ro want se ba yin. Ta ni ba want se ba yin na teni ta zambo ju bo molan de la tusam gomsam la so ban chechu chomsam cheba ke teni kawa zambo ni ge yore gache gende ge molan de taba yana de zam ge teni so so la de ge sunam de ke mentu ne tena nyam ni chia yo ba ke kawa ding ge yore de dimba la teni rani dewa la ngangen so to ge yore si kains no so so rani ke che nalo ke mehi ba mare ba de drama tam je sabr ro ko yo ba ro teni tel tini soso rani ke ache leng imba masa ba chani teni chama leg jisan ram ko yodu tene lengimpa masana tene dewareya dewarewa te jumsene tene rangi ki dewa yong bata lakpar de tene che suso rani ke semta nambar ta hi gangla nawan ta ye tinya terinyor thong song so nawan ta ye ransem chuga nawan ta ye de ta ba jinjar so wa ina tene yin 준 통과요 말에 가시 준 통과요 봐이나 준 통화를 때네 때네 해당당 나잘 체크요 말에 대 맞이도 뒤차로 가래 체크요르스나 잉게 준거 논톨 때네 닌지 제용고 요래 닌지 제도 닌지가 로데 아 때네 아 간달 수소게 제 셈다 류탐제 대ව게 티가 남바리다 응네잖아 닌지가 로데 아 ngarang chu luk sim be yora sim be so tamje rayin kama lu tongzi ke tene korang chu la mi na ki cha de yore jamba de ninje hibanda di junse le tene ngarang chu rayin ke tene luk tone dewa yongwa ta sem ko tone yang hiwa ta na yong ko yo bare is
And so in the title of this section here, so there's these three parts. So for gaining back the benefit and happy living and birth. So the first one is the gaining, like a supreme attainment, which is the benefit. So from a more distant, ultimate perspective, that is to attain the state of unsurpassed enlightenment. And from a more closer perspective, when one listens to or reflects on and practices, meditates on the prayer for excellent conduct, or if one explains and composes and so forth, writes down this prayer for excellent conduct, the more one basically preoccupies oneself with this prayer for excellent conduct, the more one generates or creates this propensity to sustain a continuous practice of this prayer for excellent conduct. And then as a result of that, the second one is then one will live in happiness. And mainly that is because all these stains of ignorance, of unknowingness will become lighter, and when they become lighter, we will not accumulate negative karma, and since everything follows karma, we will then experience happiness as a result, so we live in happiness. And that mainly depends on having purified one's own mind. And then, as we said before, having purified one's own mind, one will see the Buddha Amitabha directly, which we have said means that we see our own mind to be Amitabha, beholding, recognizing that our own mind is the Dharmakaya Amitabha. And then once one has seen that, one will actually no longer see the faults in others. And even if obvious faults in others may exist and are seen, one will not become afflicted about them. One will not develop thoughts of resentment or anger or pride and so forth. But in the face of other people's faults or mistakes, actually in place of affliction, a mind of compassion for them arises. And so when compassion arises within your own mind, you will naturally experience true physical and mental well-being or happiness. And it's also because when love and compassion arise within you, your body that is pervaded by these various microorganisms or different life forms, they will also naturally become more relaxed. So your compassion becomes more like a medicine for them to relax. And then as a result of that, since all the little bugs in your body are relaxed, and then naturally your body will also be in a state of well-being, and your mind will be in a state of peace.
Tene jewa hibande tse metse tsende ge tongdare metsende yang zambo jobo molan dem kinte da lekparong sibade ta lekpa sibade gewa deware gewa tang dewa tongda chikpare da kantara jo dan rewa ke chepare gewa hipa de tarade dewa ke jo yin bachane gewa sina main loga ta yapare teri ma do kantara gewa yongre sonda de zambo chibo molan de dimkin tamchi tsindalan da dewa dechi yongke yore sewande ngune tane dimba champu rewa dimba champu meina tsendala dewa yongri sen lapt tin yige na ku tugu mara ko maramne yige na degri tini deta baji yin go je kor go kor tan yapo mare de go kor tan tugu yo mare wa ta de dimba champu yin de ba de samno je tona chorang ka semnang la je ta dambo je ja chenpo tan da ke ma yin na ya suso ke je 차당 그 삼노데마 현두 라이에 그 대지제 요르 데 가레르스드 차당 세주데 데네 동아 조지 그 락자나 이 차도 요르 차도당 nganjin 데네 데 탐제 소소소소라 동아 조지 그 락자나 이 차도 요르 다카 메사드 가레르스는 마르바 세주데 하자가 땡 톡보제 인자 쿠그 더블 디게 차도당 되니 콘진도 저 용거 요자 되니 대 중인 방아 춘 통톡고요 말이다 카 미사테 데레 다 잠보주 모랑 된 레케 자네 초 디그 도토소 문바 마르보 그 문바 또보데마 세야게 레가지 용거 요레 델레티네 차당 그 다라데 콘진라서 버그 누바데 혁총로 동거 요레 혁총아 잠지 hibde hibade ko rangyin ke yam phe yong yo semnang ne de yin za gewa hong shiban de re ta de yong ala chen de le yong ge si de chen de le be zun ji go yo nga so ke be zun ji ba na churang dawa ngu ma na ta tara dawa chuk ji ro dawa chu ba nang ne ji me be che zo lo ja sing bo hyu ji yin ba yin na ya dawa chuk ji nen tin tin jo ba tang ta pre de ta rong ta ring bo ge ja re ma to yak ji si chu du de nga rang so la yak 되니 다지 로지 있으네 야야 지속으로 per yarjen ro go yorela ro thugo yore ngune tan jena 생구 휴거 통의 yarjen ro yote len la hyu ro cha do yore chlo ge cheng bo je zuk chung ji go na test san le la bo yo ma ji ji mang bo ji du go yore 휴거 통의 소소 yarjen ro si ba de san no tong dang jing jo wa tong dang je ge yarje dang ro yore ba 산에 동당직 대연자 지직제는 레라 휴 라보 휴제 차도 요래 대연도 가랑조 다 잠보 주보 모란데게 대 잠거데 센달라야 핑 가랑조 랍다 간다 수남 제나리 핀데 때르토고 바레라 대자마제 센달라 파파 군도 잠보 제다와 임도더니 저르토고 요선 군도 잠보 대양 진라와 대다 링프르마토 대긴 줄 선도와 단데 가레송리 세드 군드 잠보 히바데 군드 히바데 드다 나바 군드 히바동러와 잠보 히반데 데네 제 랑게 돈라양 랑랑오네 제 셈낭라 히와 요데바 데지 요데바 초히 요데바 응네라네 데레 장바 요바 닝제 요바 데송오네 랑오네 잠보데레 잉고라 지 책지글라는 핀다 더바이나 핀다 제 무보 잘라 충충 지 타나 사마 카강게 인질 핀다 더바이나 핀다야 데니 야 라브리나 담비 추고 돈네 데니 인라 핀다야는서 그 돈네 데니 짐바는 게 짐 초도 저바데 담비 추고 짐반데 인송고 여러와 데인자 데니 추글라는 가랑서 그 핀주 고더지 돌란지 데니 담비 추고 돌라 데다 돈이 데니 코요 tumbalaasu bandu soko sunam deso tani yin ola pa zambo chada yore tani zambo hibande tani ngimpa ka dodarewa tani te tabu kandre jyote saane leka te yaya je taundu tani kundu zambo hinta topda zumchor nupa pinyo mambo chi song song gana 대 탐지 용서봐 대니 준링보 ngormo go batone 대니 ngaranso 대다 찍바 찍정 저렇다고 요래서
So then the third word in the which what's here made into two, so live and happiness. So basically when we live in happiness in this life, and that is through the prayer of the excellent conduct. And so happiness, and so yeah, here it says, so it's like basically means both words, happiness and virtue, which happiness and virtue really actually have the same meaning. They're just given different names because of this causal relationship they have. One is the cause and one is the result. So in any case, by just anyone who practices the prayer for excellent conduct will actually experience happiness in this life, and that's an actual truth. Because if it wouldn't be true, then first of all, one wouldn't have, they wouldn't have even written it down in this text, and then it would have not been like kind of maintained for many generations, because if that would not be true, then it would be deceiving others. And so here in the Dharma, we cannot deceive others. So then also, not only that, but it's really true from our own perspective too, if we really think about it, how it affects our mind. So even if we don't think about it in a really vast sense on how it is true, but when you just look at your own mind, when there is a moment where all those thoughts of attachment and anger and so on are pacified, then you're naturally feeling happy in this moment. And therefore, this prayer becomes a way to pacify these. On the other hand, if you allow these thoughts of attachment and aversion to remain within your mind, then these thoughts, these afflicted thoughts, are the very tools that will fabricate all kinds of suffering, such as thoughts of jealousy or selfishness and so on. And so sometimes, of course, we can't really be too hard on others for doing that, because the reason why they can't help themselves is because they are obscured by very thick layers of ignorance, very strong ignorance and unawareness, and being not aware of what's really happening. Then due to the power of that unawareness, they develop thoughts of pride and jealousy, or resentment, anger, and so on. And because they're ignorant and unaware, they can't see that there's a fault in that. So they justify it. And so, therefore, in order to clear, this prayer is a way to clear away this darkness of unmindfulness, of unawareness, and that which kind of performs the activity of unawareness, which basically is when you're unaware, then naturally the activities are thoughts of attachment and anger and so on, and resentment arising. So through this prayer, that being cleared away, these negative tendencies will become weaker, and just naturally thoughts of peaceful thoughts and happy states of mind will naturally increase. And however, saying naturally, we still have to, of course, make an effort in this dedication or this aspiration prayer. So for example, if we think about how things really change for us, also to show that we can actually change things in our mind, if you just think 1 month back, like now we are in November, think about October, maybe you've had a real hard time in October, and were really troubled by a lot of issues. And if that's the case, then if you have done something to do something about it, then for sure by November, you could have changed things to some extent. So we can change things gradually by day and month by month and year by year and so on. So we cannot completely always change everything, but we can change our state of mind. And in fact, maybe when it comes to changing things, to change the mind through the Dharma is actually maybe the easiest thing that we can change, because in order to change our outer circumstances, then many causes and conditions need to come together, and maybe it's not always so easy to change our outer circumstances. And it's actually much easier to change our mind, because we don't need all kinds of outer conditions for it to change. It just depends on how we think about things, and then we can change our mind. So maybe it's the easiest way the easiest thing to change, or the easiest environment or circumstance to change is the one of the mind. So then, therefore, for this reason, when we recite this aspiration prayer for excellent conduct, that's why it is said here that we will live in happiness. It can give us happiness and merit. And then it says, and then soon you become like Samantabhadra himself. And so Samantabhadra, as we mentioned, means Gunto Sangbo in Tibetan, and Gunto or Gun Sang in brief. And Gun means all or always, at all times, ever. And Sang is short for Sangbo, which means excellent or good. And that is for your own benefit. You become peaceful and happy, content, and filled with love and compassion. So all of these are excellent qualities, so therefore excellent. So that's for your own benefit, and for others, then what you do will be of great benefit to them. For example, what you say will be of great benefit to them. Or even if you just give them a spoonful of food to their mouth, it will benefit them. And of course, the greatest benefit that we can bring to someone is the giving of the Holy Dharma. It is said that the giving of the Holy Dharma is the most supreme form of generosity. And so in this way, becoming excellent, we will be able to support each other in the Holy Dharma by discussing the Dharma and so forth. And then our environment, whatever we do, becomes in harmonious with the Holy Dharma. So excellent from your own perspective and excellent from the perspective of others. So that is the meaning of Samantabhadra, ever excellent. So excellent being the opposite of negative. And so if the cause of positivity is created, then the power of Samantabhadra as a result will come about. So that's the benefit that we have mentioned before. And it will come about before long, so soon. It says soon here. So soon we will be able to transform our minds in this way.
Thank you very much.
To dedication prayer in Yellow Prayer Book on page 11. By this merit may I attain omniscience, having defeated the enemies, my wrongdoings. May I liberate all beings who are tossed in the ocean of samsara by the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. On page 16. Just as the hero Manjushri realized things as they are, and as did Samantabhadra too, I will follow in their path and perfectly dedicate all these virtues. And then in the blue prayer book, on page 64, verse 21. May every being ailing with disease be freed at once from every malady. May all the sickness that afflicts the living be instantly and permanently healed.